In a real estate market full of noise, two agents bring you the truth, the wins, the losses, the strategies that actually work. From bidding wars to hidden disasters to the biggest financial decisions of your life, this is Home School, hosted by Liz Sandwick and Tom Sommers. Twin Cities Real Estate. No fluff, no nonsense. Class is now in session.
Welcome to Homeschool. I am one of your hosts, Tom Sommers, and I am joined by my co-host, Liz Sandwick. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here, everybody. A couple of quick things I want to mention. We are both licensed real estate agents in the state of Minnesota. We work for Coldwell Banker. That is our brokerage. We work the entire metro area, although we both focus on different areas in the Twin Cities. But if you're in Elk River or you're in Northfield, we're going to help you.
That's right. That's right. We're very knowledgeable about lots of different areas in the Twin Cities areas, and every market's a little bit different. Some of the things that are going on up in Plymouth and in that general area is different than what's going on in Lakeville, for example. So it's good to know the markets, and it's good to know that not all markets are the same, even in the metro area.
And this podcast is designed to inform you, entertain you, and also give you hope, whether you're a buyer or seller, that a lot of the things that you're reading, I think, online, because I see it too, and in the national news, is just not accurate. You can't say nationally, this is happening. Well, that's fine. It could be affecting Florida much more, or North Carolina, than it is Minnesota. So we want to stay Twin Cities specific to help you solve problems and answer questions for you, whether you're a buyer or a seller.
That's right.
This is episode 6 today, and the title for this one is "The First 7 Days Can Make or Break Your Home Sale." So this is directed right at you, a home seller. Now, we want to talk about all these different things as we go, because I know a lot of you have questions. You're thinking about maybe selling your home. You're not sure if this is the right time. You're reading all this bad news. So we want to clear up some things for you and give you some insight and show you that it's a great market to sell a home. We desperately need new inventory. We need clean, move-in ready homes, more than you would know, regardless of what you're hearing online. So I'm going to start it off with Liz today. And the first thing I want to ask about is with the questions. My house has been listed for 3 days. Should I be worried if nobody has scheduled a showing?
Yes, that would be my answer, just off the bat. But coming into it midway through your first week on the market, I'm just going to say your first 7 days on the market are absolutely vital, and they're going to tell you where you're positioned on the market. And the reason I'm saying that is because when you're on the market, especially the first 7 days, which I feel are the most important 7 days of the entire transaction of your entire list, is because the buyers have already received their alert that you're new to the market, and they've already seen your pictures likely online, and they've already seen your price, and they already know where your location is. And if those things don't gel with those buyers, they're not setting an appointment to come walking through your door. And so are you priced right? Are you staged? Are you clean? Are you clutter free? What do you look like online? All of those things are so important to make sure you're ready before you hit the market. Otherwise, you could be lagging.
But also, too, so you don't panic, I do want to say to everybody that every situation is different. So what Liz is saying is a general rule, and she's 100% accurate, but there are nuances as you go up in price. The buyer pool gets smaller, it gets more selective. So it doesn't mean that what she's sharing with you isn't accurate in all price ranges, but every situation is going to be slightly different. So we're trying to give you general rules of thumb of what we're seeing out in the marketplace. And I completely agree. What's changed is years ago, like a long time ago, there used to be a book, and you would come in and sit with me, and we'd look through this book of black and white photos, and then we would set up a showing, and you'd look at it, and then people were looking in the newspapers, like the local weeklies, as well as Star Tribune, that sort of thing. Now everything's online. So I think we mentioned this before. I think, Liz, you were talking about how the first showing is online. They look at your photos, descriptions, all of that. Second showing, they drive by. Third showing is when they actually physically come into the house. So to Liz's point, if we're getting really good numbers and seeing a lot of people looking at the home online, but we're not physically getting showings, you don't have to push the panic button, but we need to go, okay, why? What's wrong? What are we missing? What needs to change? So good agents actively work on your listing all week long, every week, by tweaking little things to try to see if they can solve that puzzle.
Yes, and we want to make sure that your house is being seen by the largest amount of buyers and that your house is being target marketed to the areas where your buyers are going to be coming from. So, for example, if you have a townhouse in Lakeville, where are those buyers going to be coming from if you're listing that house, that townhouse for sale? Are they coming from Shakopee? Are they coming from Eagan? Are they coming from Burnsville? And how are you as an agent targeting those areas and looking for those buyers to put that property in front of them so that they can see, ooh, there's a new townhouse in Avonlea that's for sale, and I got to check that out. So those things are important. It's also important to take a look at what's going on the calendar. You know, is it right next to prom? And you have a single family home that would be perfect for somebody who's going to be downsizing into your size of a property, for example, but the buyers are busy with other things. So what is also going on in the community on the calendar? Is it Christmas break? Is it spring break? And you're in the middle of that and there's no showings, but you have a lot of online views. I mean, so there are some things that are also beyond our control that say, yeah, there's people who are interested in you. They haven't walked through yet because there could be some extenuating circumstances for your buyers.
Yeah. And so every situation is unique, but at the same time, you have to be aware of what's going on. That's why we spend time analyzing all of this stuff. The next question I want to talk about that I've heard people ask, we've had plenty of showings, but no offers. What is the market trying to tell us?
Well, I had a situation with a townhouse not too long ago. We closed on Monday of last week, and we had the first few days, we had buyers that came through, and the feedback was super excited about it, perfect fit. We'll be sending an offer. We had 3 of those, no offer from those. The fourth buyer that came through did give us an offer. But what's the disconnect? What's the disconnect between being super excited, ready to write an offer, and then not doing it? So there's something, either there's competition that's drawing the buyers away that might be more compelling. Maybe it's the location. Maybe they were super excited about it and fell away. Those super excited buyers and they don't write. You have to ask yourself, are you compellingly priced for the market if you're not getting that offer? And those are some conversations that you need to share with your sellers, because you're in the sweet spot if in the first 7 days. And if you've got a whole bunch of people who are super excited about it and then they fall away, you're not quite there. And what is it going to take to get you there?
And I feel like I have to pound this home again. Liz says this a lot. You have to price your home compellingly, and I agree 100%. And I just want to cover this for those of you that may not have heard it in a different episode. We're not saying that you give your home away. We're not saying that you underprice your home. What we're saying is when we sit down and do a market, we're going to give you a range and tell you, here's what we think is going to happen in these 3 scenarios. You have to be priced compellingly, and meaning you have to be attractive to that buyer. So the buyer looks at it and says, wow, I know if I don't go see this house at this price with all of these amenities, someone else is going to buy it. That doesn't mean giving it away, and the market will adjust things for you. So let's say you decide to list at a little bit lower of a price to be more compelling, which is what we want. Then all of a sudden you end up in multiple offers because of that. Well, the market just corrected the value. So you're not leaving money on the table. If you're worried about leaving money on the table, then go ahead and overprice the house, because then you'll ultimately list it or have to keep reducing it, and it will sell for less than what it's really worth. Because the piece that I don't like as a realtor that really bothers me is the reaction we're getting from some of these buyers on market time. We've lived through so many different markets in our career, and average days on market for like a balanced market, well, I think if I'm not mistaken, is 60 days, maybe 90, something like that. So now buyers like, well, my gosh, it didn't sell in a week. What's wrong with it? Well, lots of times there's nothing wrong with it. It just was maybe overpriced, or it was missing one thing, or it was too close to a road, whatever it is. But don't judge a house based on the days on market as a buyer, but as a seller, you have to, because that's what the buyers are doing.
Mhm. And it's super important. And just because someone has priced a home at a certain point doesn't mean that that's what the house is valued at. The house is valued at what the buyer has agreed to pay for the house, and then the seller agrees to that. That's what the house is worth.
And
And
I, go ahead,
yeah,
sorry, finish, please.
otherwise it's just an estimate. It's an estimate from different sources that come up with a number, and they put that out there and hope that some people don't even put the time and the effort and the research into it. Tom and I do, but some people are like, well, that one's priced here, so I'm going to price it here, and that's as far as some people go, and that is a disservice to the seller. I'm just going to say that that's a disservice to the seller. You need to be more precise as far as your market analysis than just, okay, well, we're not as updated as them, so we're just going to knock off this much and that should do it. That doesn't necessarily mean anything because you're not taking everything into account.
Oh, I totally agree. And I'm so glad you brought that point up, because I literally went on a listing appointment last night. I had a phone call from this gal who said, we've had an agent out to look at their house, and they gave us a price and we felt that it was too low. I said, well, great, I'll come out and take a look. Well, in sitting with them, they explained to me that this agent came out and gave them a price. She had seen their home before, but didn't produce any comps, nothing. There was nothing to back why she said what she said. And that's why I have an issue. There's a two-step process and a one. I've always believed in a two-step process, because how can I tell you what your home is worth if I've never been inside? I have to see it. I have to see what you have, all of your amenities, the space, everything. Then I go back and I do the research to then give you an accurate view from my professional point of view of what I think your home is worth. I don't understand why all of a sudden, I think it's laziness, where these agents just think they can just throw a number out. But you could be leaving money on the table. I would rather send you a detailed comparison, just like Liz does, and say, here, this is why I think what I think. You can argue and say, no, I don't agree with you, which is fine. We want to have those discussions, but at least you know that I made the effort and I can show you why I feel the way I feel.
Absolutely. That's super important. And there's a lot of people that say, well, come over and give me a number. I said, I can give you a range. I
Yeah.
can't give you a number, or I can't give you a comprehensive plan until I see how big is your front entryway, especially if you're a split level. Are you walk in, you have to take your shoes off immediately, or can you walk in, there's a closet, there's space for you to be able to take your shoes off and decide what you want to do before you go up or down. Some of those entryways are much smaller than others, and there's value in some of that. Are you faced east west versus north south? What is the natural light in your home? Is your deck solid, or is it rickety and dangerous? So, I mean, I can take a look at the numbers all day long, but if you put on an addition, for example, and it's not reflected on the county website, you haven't sold the house, and so it's not public information yet. I don't know what that is. I can't magically say. If you tell me some things that you've done to the house, that's great. But I need to see it with my own eyes to see if it's a DIY gone great, or a DIY gone bad, or a professional level, work. You just don't know until you're inside. And it doesn't have to be like show ready when Tom and I walk through the first time. Not at all, because a lot of people get really stressed out thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to judge the clutter that I have, the extra books I have, the piles of mail I have, whatever it is. I see all past that. I mean, once we get ready to list the house, yes, all those things need to be taken
That's a
care of.
different conversation.
But when we walk through, you don't have to worry about anything other than us being able to see how new is the carpet. What does the baseboard look like? What kind of lighting do you have in the house? Have the bathrooms been updated, or are they builder grade from when you bought the house? I mean, we look at those kinds of things to see, how your property fits in with other properties. The other thing that Tom and I do on a regular basis is we tour homes, whether we do agent previews. And I like to do that, especially when I have a listing agreement, a listing meeting, so I can go through some of the other competition homes in the area to kind of see, okay, this is kind of a similar home on paper than the one I'm going to go in tonight. Maybe I can get a feel for, what this is going to be like on the market. Now, have those other properties gone under contract? Are they pending? Are they active? How long have they been active? Have they been sitting on the market? Are they stale? I mean, all of those things kind of come together. Even if you have the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms and square footage and east-west facing and same everything, if one's been sitting on the market at X dollars for 35 days and has no showings and it's in good condition, you don't want to list at that same price. But we have the same bedrooms and bathrooms and all that stuff.
Doesn't matter.
They're stale on the market. They're overpriced.
Yep.
And you don't want to come on the market and sit either. You want to come on the market and sell. You don't want your neighbor's house to sell before yours. You want to be on the market, looking sharp and being compelling, both from a buyer's, from the financial part of it, but also walking through and going, wow, hey, I like this house. I want to write an offer.
Yeah, and
That's the goal.
right. And I also think it's important too to mention if you over improve your house because you love certain things, that's wonderful. But it doesn't mean you're going to get the money back out of it. I had a client once where he literally, I know this is going to blow people's minds. He spent $250,000 on his landscaping in his backyard. There was no way he was going to get all that money back out of it. And sure enough, he wanted to sell to somebody who appreciated it like he did, and I get it. But literally less than 24 hours after that house closed, I had driven by because it was close to my home. There was a bulldozer in the backyard.
Oh, yeah.
They leveled all of it and they dug a hole and put in a pool. So just because you love something and you over improve it doesn't mean we can get you all the money back out of it. So you have to be aware before you do some of these things that you got to be careful how you're spending your money.
Absolutely. And there's return on investments for different projects. And if you have questions about that, reach out to Tom or I, and we're happy to kind of talk you through some of these things. If you're doing it for yourself, great. But if you're doing it so you think that, oh, I'm putting $100,000 in this, I expect to get that out, you're really not going to. You're really not going to. Your best return on investment is paint. I will say just flat out. And if you want to put money into bathrooms or kitchens, that's a good return on investment. Windows are a terrible return on investment, but if you have cracked seals or cracks in your panes, or you're going to want to change your glass, you want to fix those because that'll be considered like deferred maintenance on your home. And there's wonderful things that you can do to your house. Absolutely.
Without spending $50,000.
Oh, you don't want to do that in order to sell, but you do. I always tell people, like, and I know this is a little long in the subject part here, Tom, but
no.
When we're listing a house for sale, I try to let people know whatever your house is worth, let's say 500,000, you might spend 1% getting the house up to market. And some people might need to spend more than that. Some people might need to spend less. It just really depends on the status of your house and how you've lived in it and where we are right now.
Because buyers are picky. And that's the other piece I wanted to touch on. Like both Liz and I are very active with buyers as well as our listings. And I can tell you that in the last month or so, I've easily been in over 100 homes. So not only have I seen all of these houses in the metro area, I also have listened to what my clients are saying. So we are both very tuned in on what the buyers right now are saying about the homes and the market, what they expect and what they're looking for. So that's where the win is for you as a seller, is working with us, because we have all of that information versus some agents who haven't shown a home in 3 weeks. So all of these pieces work together. I want to move on though to the next question, which is, should we lower the price after the first weekend?
Well, I guess that's a big question. And I would say in many of the things that in real estate, it depends. It depends. Are you overpriced? I mean, are you? And if you're my listing, typically speaking, we have this conversation way before we go on the market about being compellingly priced and all of that. And some people are like, well, I don't care. I want to list it here. And we'll start from there. And if that's the case, and I know that we're overpriced, then the answer would be yes.
Yeah.
The answer would be yes.
But we have those conversations in advance, like Liz said, so you'll know it's coming. It's not going to be a surprise. And neither one of us are the type of agents that are calling you up saying we need to lower the price because we can't think of anything else to do. This is a piece of everything because the home is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Period. End of story. So we get you as close as we possibly can with our detailed deep dive analysis. You get to pick. We want to price compellingly if we have the opportunity to do so. But we're going to look at the data, we're going to look at the traffic, and we're going to look at everything that's being said to help you determine whether you're at that point or not.
Right. We have a game plan. And if I have a 3-tiered pricing strategy for you, you'll know if you choose the higher one, I'm like, okay, that's going to be more days on market for you. And what and this is the tried and true thing that I've dealt with almost my whole career in real estate is if you're priced compellingly, you sell for the best possible price. If you're overpriced, you generally have to adjust. And I'm just going to say it, you're going to have to adjust by at least like 3% from what your list price is, because that'll get you into the next tier of buyers, right? So that if you're way up here and you drop, and then you need to drop again because you started way too high, after your second drop, you'll get an offer, but it won't be typically at this price. It'll be less, whether it's with closing costs or something else. Whereas if you start here, you can go up or you'll stay right about here. If you're priced right, you're selling at 99 to 102% of the sale price of the list price of the house. So,
and to piggyback off of what you just said from the 3%, here's the other piece of that. When you're looking at how the buyers are considering things, because of the shenanigans of some over the last several years during COVID, buyers have now gotten to the point where in many cases, like let's say they could spend $425,000, that's their high. They won't look over 400 because they're already assuming anything they look at is going to end up in multiples. So if you're priced at 4.25, they may not see you. But if you're priced at $399.9, they'll be happy to get into a bidding war and pay you up to 4.25 in many cases because they're prepared for that. So again, that goes back to the compellingly priced part of it. If you're overpriced or you're sitting at the high end like that, they'll just keep looking for other houses and they'll just keep moving on and they won't even give you a second look.
Yep, and you need that second look.
Yeah,
you need that second look. You want a third, fourth, fifth, sixth look because the more they look at you, the more likely they are. So, but we have strategies that will work for any price point home, whether you're $1 million or you're 400,000 or somewhere in between. There's a way to price your house strategically where you're not leaving money on the table and you're not sitting on the market forever. It is, but those first 7 days are vital. I will say it again, it's the most important 7 days of the entire transaction.
Yep. And that leads me into my next question. Is the first weekend really the best time for an open house?
Well, in my opinion, no.
I would agree with that.
I don't think open houses sell homes, but I use open houses to test the market. I will do an open house, but I will do it at a non-traditional time because I want to see who's going out of their way to get into this house. I don't like to do them Saturday from noon to 2 or whatever, because anybody who's just out on their day date, who's going to go walking through there or neighbors or whatever, looky-loos, that's fine. They can do that. But I want to see who's interested in this property. And so I will have a non-traditional open house time. Like if I list the house on Thursday, maybe 3 to 5 on a Thursday. Who's bending over backwards and rushing to get there? And typically I only do like 90 minutes tops for an open house anyway. You have it too big, nobody shows up. You have it nice and narrow. There's no sense of urgency. Yes. I mean, even an hour is a good time for an open house because if people want to see it, they will get there.
Yes.
And that's what you want. You want to see who's interested in your house. And just having a come to the open house on Sunday or Saturday, it doesn't tell me about the market. It
Yeah.
really
Now,
doesn't. It doesn't say who's bending over backwards to come see this house.
we're not saying, though, that you shouldn't do one on a weekend. We're just saying
Sure.
we're trying to come up with alternative ideas. But I also want to break the myth, because I also have a lot of buyers who are like, they're interested in a property, they want to rate, and they're like, oh my God, there's an open house tomorrow. And I'm like, so? Because years ago, before the internet, open houses did sell homes because it was the only opportunity for a lot of people to actually see the house. Now we
Mhm.
give you photos, videos, descriptions, details, everything you could possibly want. The open house, less than 2% of the homes sell from an open. Where the opens are really, really good, in my opinion, is, let's say you have a house that is really underpriced because it needs a lot of work. So it's, I mean, beyond, can't even use the word compelling. It's unbelievable deal for what it is. Great. If you're $300,000 and you got it marked at 260, you're going to get a parade through there on a Sunday like you wouldn't believe. That's when it's really effective, and that's where most times an open house will help sell the home. But if it's just a regular listing, to Liz's point, do it in a different time frame, do it for a shorter amount of time, because it forces people to make a decision that this house is important enough that I need to show up during this hour. I don't have 3.5, 4 hours to go, because then you lose all of that interest.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it any better. Good job, Tom.
Thank you. All right, last one I want to talk about before we wrap up. Which feedback should sellers actually listen to during the first week, and which comments should they ignore?
Hmm. Well, we're entering into a phase of no buyer feedback. A lot of people are not giving feedback, and there's good reason for that. When a buyer's agent gives feedback to the seller, are they representing their buyers? Oftentimes, no. They're sharing information that might make the buyer vulnerable. If the agent says no, my client's not interested, and then they circle back and they write an offer, the seller might be upset that they weren't interested to begin with. And so then the negotiations might be different than if the agent hadn't shared that information. And that's just one small example. There have been lawsuits in different parts of the country where buyers agents have been sued by the buyers because they feel like they didn't get the house, or they didn't get the right price for the house, based solely on the fact that the buyer's agent shared feedback with the seller. So there's that caveat right there. And two, if there's no feedback whatsoever, if the buyer's agent isn't calling the listing agent and talking to them, that's feedback too.
Mm-hmm.
That's saying that they're not interested, or they're not ruling it out, but they're not ready to write an offer yet too.
But I also don't feel that as a realtor that we shouldn't be respectful to the other people that we work with. So like
Percent.
for us, we always leave feedback, but it'll be, you have a beautiful home. There are some aspects of the home my clients really like. They're still thinking about it. At
Yep.
least you're at least acknowledging, hey, we showed up, we did the showing, and here's kind of where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is when I get a negative feedback, is it coming from the realtor or is it coming from the buyer? Because I don't care what the realtor thinks. I just want to hear, what did that buyer think of the home? And what I'm looking for when I'm reviewing these is something that's tangible that we can fix. Like if someone says, I don't like the bedroom sizes, they're too small, or the kitchen's not this, or the living room's not that. Fine, can't change that. It is what it is. But if we get 3 feedback in a row that say, oh, that carpet is horrible, or
Or
the
it
paint
smells
is
like
bad,
dog.
it
Mm-hmm.
smells like dog. Now there's something we can work off. To me, that's valuable feedback, because then we can look and go, okay, well, we've had 3 people now that have said this. Maybe we need to address this. So
Yep.
it's useful, but you have to kind of pick and choose what to listen to and what not to, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
Ultimately, listen to your realtor, your listing agent, because they will give you the hard truth. Hopefully, Tom and I would, and in a gentle way, we would
Mhm.
say, okay, I've had some talks with some agents who didn't want to write anything down, but their buyers, they liked it, but the house smelled like cats. and there's an allergy or
Yep.
whatever else. And so they weren't interested in moving forward. Well, maybe I need to clean the carpets, or maybe I need to put new carpet in, or whatever. I mean, those are some options that can come from multiple concerns of one certain thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's kind of so much of this is truly a case by case basis. And I guess what I feel like we're trying to point out to you is that we're giving you general rules of thumb that may or may not always be applicable to your specific situation. But we want to also show you that there's so much more that goes into listing a home than having you sign a contract and stick a sign in the yard. There's nuances and there's things, and you have to have agents that are good communicators that follow up with other agents, because that's the other thing. I have agents where, and I know Liz has experienced this too, you call them up and they don't answer. So you text them, they answer your text right away. Then you call them back to say, hey, let's have a conversation. They will not answer their phone. They will only text with you. So we also have our challenges on that side that we can't always get answers for you because they're just not going to tell us.
Yeah. Yep. And that some of that's generational and some of that is the way they do their business.
Yep.
I would like to err on being too communicative, both as a buyer's agent reaching out to the listing agent or a listing agent. Oftentimes I call my buyer's agents before they come through and see if they have any questions that I can help them with before they come through. Maybe share some features about the house that they really need to check out while they're there. Just try to pre-sell the house too in a way and build rapport, because I find out that if you've got a buyer and I'm the listing agent, if we have a good rapport, we'll work through any hiccups or speed bumps that we might come across if we have that rapport, versus I'm in my court, you're in your court. And that's how some people operate. But the goal at the end of the day is buyers want to buy, sellers want to sell, and we want to do it in a way that makes everybody happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's the biggest challenge is making sure that everybody feels heard and that everyone's happy. That's pretty much it for today. That's what we've got. So hopefully we helped answer some questions for you if you're thinking about selling. As always, if you have any questions at all, please reach out to either one of us, leave comments. What should we do for homework this week, Liz?
Oh, for homework this week, download an app, take a look at some properties, and see if you can find one that belongs to me or Tom. There you go.
There you go. Excellent. I love that. Okay. So until next time, you have been
Homeschooled.
We'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.